Your Jack Russell is behind you right now. You do not need to turn around. It is there. It has been there since you stood up from the couch 9 minutes ago. It followed you to the kitchen. It followed you to the bathroom. It followed you back to the kitchen. It is now sitting approximately 1.2 meters from your left ankle, facing the same direction you are facing, monitoring your body language for the next movement cue. It has not been asked to do this. It has not been trained to do this. It is executing a behavioral program that was written in a farmhouse in Devon 200 years ago. And it cannot stop. 3 things you will learn. First, the neurobiological difference between a Jack Russell following you and a golden retriever following you, because they are not the same behavior and they are not driven by the same emotion. Second, the specific moment in Jack Russell breeding history when following became hardwired, and why Reverend Russell considered it the single most important trait in a working terrier. Third, how to tell the difference between healthy following and pathological shadow behavior, and when you should be worried. Start with the neurobiology. When a golden retriever follows its owner, functional MRI studies show primary activation in the amygdala and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. These are the brain regions associated with social bonding, attachment, and emotional comfort. The golden retriever follows you because being near you feels good. It is a proximity reward. The dog's emotional state is, I love this person, and being close to them reduces my anxiety. When a Jack Russell follows its owner, the brain activation pattern is different. A study from the Department of Ethology at Eotvos Lorand University in 2020 compared neural activation in terrier breeds versus retriever breeds during owner proximity tasks. Terrier breeds showed significantly higher activation in the prefrontal cortex and the dorsal striatum. These are not emotional centers. These are executive planning centers, the brain regions responsible for anticipating events, evaluating options, and preparing responses. The Jack Russell does not follow you because being near you feels comforting. It follows you because you are the mission commander, and the mission commander is about to do something, and the Jack Russell intends to be present when it happens. This is not attachment. This is operational readiness. The distinction matters because it changes everything about how you should respond. A golden retriever that follows you is seeking emotional reassurance. Petting it, talking softly, giving it affection, reinforces the bond and calms the dog. A Jack Russell that follows you is seeking information. It wants to know what happens next. Petting it does not answer that question. Giving it a job does. Now, the history. Reverend John Russell kept meticulous journals, not published but referenced extensively in the definitive Russell biography by Eleanor Raskin, published in 1993. In these journals, Russell describes his ideal terrier in terms that read less like a dog breeder's notes and more like a military handler's assessment. He writes about a bitch named Viper, born in 1837. Viper, Russell notes, would not let him out of her sight on a hunt day, not from anxiety. He tested this by leaving her with the terrier man while he rode ahead. She did not whine. She did not bark. She watched the direction he departed, then worked to position herself along his likely return path. When he came back 40 minutes later, she was sitting exactly where the trail would bring him, facing the correct direction. Wait. Russell called this quality handler awareness. He valued it above digging ability, above courage, above nose, because a terrier underground that loses track of where its handler is positioned above ground is a terrier that cannot communicate. The bark means nothing if the huntsman cannot locate the source. The terrier had to know where Russell was at all times, even underground, even through 6 feet of earth, even when it could not see or hear him. It navigated by vibration, by the distant thud of hooves, by the faintest tremor of footsteps on the surface. And it adjusted its position underground to stay roughly beneath its handler. This is what your Jack Russell is doing when it follows you from room to room. It is maintaining handler position. It is tracking your movement through the domestic environment the same way Viper tracked Russell across the Devon Hills. The behavior is identical, only the setting has changed. Russell was ruthless in selecting for this trait. Dogs that wandered during hunts, that lost track of the handler, that worked independently without checking in. These dogs were not bred. In Russell's view, a terrier that does not know where its handler is standing is a terrier working alone. And a terrier working alone underground can be trapped, lost, or killed, with no possibility of rescue. The genetics of this behavior have been partially mapped. In 2019, a team at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences published a genome-wide association study on social behavior in dogs. They identified several candidate genes in terrier breeds associated with human-directed proximity maintenance. The strongest signal was in the region around the oxytocin receptor gene, OXTR, but with a modifier variant not found in retriever breeds. The Terrier version of this gene complex appears to produce a form of bonding that is less about emotional comfort and more about cooperative task orientation. The dog bonds to the handler not as a source of love, but as a working partner. This explains something that confuses many new Jack Russell owners. The dog follows them obsessively, but does not always want to be touched. It will lie at your feet, but squirm when picked up. It will watch your face with intense focus, but turn away when you lean in for a nuzzle. It wants proximity without intimacy. It wants to be your colleague, not your baby. Now the critical question: when is following a problem? Not all following behavior in Jack Russells is healthy handler tracking. Some of it is genuine separation anxiety, and the distinction has real welfare implications. Healthy following looks like this. The dog tracks your movement, maintains a consistent distance of 1 to 2 meters, frequently checks your face for cues, but can be redirected. If you give the dog a task, a puzzle feeder, a chew, a nosework game, the dog will leave your side and engage with the task. It may check back periodically, but it does not abandon the task to resume following. The dog sleeps normally, it eats normally, it does not vocalize when you leave the room briefly. Pathological shadow behavior looks different. The dog maintains a distance of less than half a meter. It physically blocks doorways. It vocalizes when you move out of sight, even for seconds. It cannot be redirected. Offering a high-value treat or toy does not break the following pattern. The dog shows displacement behaviors: excessive lip licking, yawning when not tired, whale eye, panting in cool environments. It may refuse to eat when you are not in direct line of sight. The difference is cortisol. A study at the University of Lincoln, published in 2014, measured salivary cortisol in dogs exhibiting following behavior before and after their owner left the room. Dogs classified as healthy followers showed a brief cortisol spike that returned to baseline within 8 minutes. Dogs classified as shadow followers showed cortisol levels that remained elevated for over 30 minutes, sometimes not returning to baseline until the owner physically returned. If your Jack Russell matches the second profile, this is not breed behavior. This is a clinical anxiety disorder that requires intervention, usually a combination of systematic desensitization and, in some cases, pharmacological support under veterinary supervision. Do not dismiss it as, oh, Jack Russells are just clingy. Clingy is a character trait. Inability to regulate cortisol in the absence of a visual anchor is a medical condition. For the majority of Jack Russells, however, the following is healthy, normal, and deeply embedded. It is the domestic expression of a working behavior that kept dogs alive underground for 2 centuries. The question is not how to stop it. You cannot stop it. The question is how to work with it. Here is what the research suggests. First, give the following purpose. Instead of simply tolerating your Jack Russell trailing you from room to room, assign microtasks during transitions. You are going to the kitchen. Say, with me, walk, arrive, say place. Point to a specific spot. The dog goes there, reward. You have just converted aimless following into a structured task. The dog's prefrontal cortex, which was already active from tracking your movement, now has a task to execute. The handler awareness is satisfied. The dog feels useful. Second, structured separations. Not abandonment, structure. Tell the dog, wait. Leave the room for 30 seconds. Return. No fanfare, no greeting. Just resume whatever you were doing. Gradually extend the duration. The dog learns that your departure is not permanent, that your return is predictable, and that no task will be missed during the separation. The cortisol spike flattens. The checking behavior reduces. The dog begins to relax into the pattern. Third, use their following instinct for training. Jack Russells that follow their owners are in a state of heightened attention. Their prefrontal cortex is primed for instruction. This is the ideal training window. Instead of scheduling formal training sessions where you have to first capture the dog's attention, simply train during the follow. You are walking to the bathroom. Ask for a sit at the door. You are heading downstairs. Ask for a heel on the stairs. The dog is already watching. The dog is already processing your body language. You are training inside the behavior, not against it. Reverend Russell understood this intuitively. He did not train his terriers in a yard with treats and clickers. He trains them on the move, during the hunt, embedded in the activity. The dog followed. He gave instructions. The dog executed. The follow was the classroom. 170 years later, nothing has changed. Your Jack Russell follows you because somewhere in its genetic memory, losing sight of the handler meant dying alone in a collapsed tunnel. That is not a behavior you train out. That is a survival imperative you earn. Your dog chose you, not as its favorite, not as its comfort object, as its handler, its partner, its mission commander. Every time it follows you from the couch to the kitchen, it is reporting for duty. The only question is whether you will give it something to do when it gets there. Subscribe to Russell Mind, because if you do not, your Jack Russell will follow you so closely that the next time you stop suddenly, it will walk directly into the back of your legs, look up at you with absolutely no remorse, and then resume its position exactly 1.2 meters from your left ankle for the rest of your life. Every room, every hallway, every trip to the refrigerator at 2 a.m. You signed up for this. There is no opt-out clause.